hopefully not. You for joining me. We are testing a lot of technical equipment tonight, and nothing is going to go wrong. Yeah. So thank you. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming in tonight, because what we're going to do isn't possible without everybody in this room. There's a really awesome mix of people here tonight. Some of you I've known for like almost 15 years. I don't know where Mike went. He's gone. Yeah. And actually, Lena, I gave your seat to Mike on accident, or opposite. He can sit in my seat. Yeah. Perfect. And then others of you I'm literally just meeting right now. So thank you for coming out, because I think if you don't get anything out of it tonight, the best thing you're going to get is the feedback in this room, in this cohort. So I know I sent some of you an email through Substack. We can actually all chat through there. So any kind of follow up, if you want this to be an ongoing thing, if you want to keep working and iterating on the project that we leave with today, I encourage you to join that chat online. All right, tonight is brought to you by Real Good News. I actually just rebranded my own company name. So we've been attracting best fit customers at scale since 2013. The table that you're sitting at, I actually built with my own hands. It's the first and last handy thing I ever did for Groundswell. So back in 2015, met some venture capitalists, and we've been the whole team here wouldn't be possible without Bud Deffenbach and his family, donating the space, making it happen. You've got a bunch of serial entrepreneurs here that truly care about this town and busting down barriers. So tonight we're going to continue that tradition as part of this workshop, and we're going to focus on brand. Tonight we've got a special guest here, Matt Mayer. I've been working with Matt for over 5 years with different companies, specifically on brand. And in every workshop, it's going to build on the last workshop. So today we'll talk about brand. We're going to talk about sales with Steven Sapko, who's here. He's worked with Dell and Oracle on sales. So you've got diverse experts in the room, all willing to help and support. My name is Jenna Bueller. I am the co-founder of Groundswell, the former CEO. It's a business incubator here. So little baby businesses are born, if you're not familiar with that term. We're in an 11,000 square foot warehouse with graffiti on the walls. It used to be an indoor skate park. And now, here you really have more active investors dialed in, like tuning into what is going on here than any other incubator in the state. So it's about what are the active groups that are investing. They're really paying attention to who's being vetted and who's being mentored through this group. And everything's free. It's hard to find that. Usually these things are tied to like a university or a system, or this is very a la carte. You come in, we figure out what's wrong, and we solve for it as quick as we can. So stick around if you can. All right. So tonight, if we look back 10 years ago, how did a 24-year-old, that was me back then, now I'm old, but how how did I work with a team to raise $1 million in private dollars with no public funding? And how do we mobilize dozens of seasoned mentors to volunteer their time for free? I believe that there's a formula, and tonight we're going to adapt that for everybody in the room. And that formula has a couple keys to success that we're going to go through, but I just want to go through what we're going to do tonight. So we're going to go through keys to success. We're going to go through 15-minute introduction. So we're going to spend a nice bit of time just going around the room and learning who we are. And then we're going to have a presentation from Matt Mayer. And then afterwards, we're going to break out into groups and really work one-on-one with different experts to iterate on the sheets that are in front of you. So you're welcome to fill them out as you please. Our first exercise is activity number 1. And great. So we're going to start with the first exercise. If you look at your sheet here, you have an invitation to complete a scene. And we're going to use these to introduce our businesses. So instead of saying, my name is such and such, this is what I do, we're really going to focus on the why behind we do what we do. So go ahead and take a few minutes while I'm speaking to just fill out the moment that you realized you were doing the one thing that you were meant to do. Like this was your jam. This was your thing. Somebody said something. There was a moment where you realized the transformation was taking place. It was evidence to you, feedback from the world that this was what you were called to do. That section 2 down there, you're going to write the name of your company and one sentence that says what you do. And then in the last section there, you have what will we celebrate this time next year? Champagne toast moment, right? What are we going to celebrate? All right, so go ahead and fill those out. I'm going to keep chatting away over here in my corner. The best part of tonight, as I shared before, is if I can't help you, I know someone who can. I've got this freakish yellow book superpower that I was born with, where I just kind of help people connect the dots. I met Andrea last week, and she was chatting with me about needing, some financial stuff to happen immediately. And I had just met a person the day before who was like an exact best fit for that. It's like this really cool thing that happens in this space, but also it's the nature of who we are here. All right, the key to success. This is sort of interesting. When I first met John Vecchio, who is a co-founder of Groundswell as well, he'd sold 3 different businesses. The last one he had just sold to IBM. And so he has this formula for how he likes to fundraise and how he likes to scale businesses. And when I met them and other investors who were curious about what we were doing, I learned that the key to a successful business and what an investor looks for is one thing. And that one thing is going to be kind of the theme of the whole 4-part series. And that is companies that get funding or companies that scale really fast are highly coachable. Or in other words, entrepreneurs, we have creatives in here too. I'm going to use these words interchangeably because it's people who have this insatiable appetite to solve a really specific problem. The creative types, all of these people who succeed in a big way are coachable. And what that means is that they're highly aware of their goal and their objective. And they're also highly aware of their strengths, the opportunities in the market, their weaknesses, and then threats to the business. So they're sort of fearlessly navigating this space at all times. So as we kind of finish our first activity here, where we're defining our why, what I'm hoping it helps us to see is this quote from Simon Sinek. He's got an awesome YouTube video that I love watching again and again. Sometimes when I'm stuck, I just watch the video again. But he talks about how great leaders inspire action. It's called The Why. And he says, people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. And so I'm hoping that this worksheet in front of you, we're going to have a couple of different activities. And I'm hoping that they kind of get us into the headspace of how do we communicate why we do what we do? And how do we use that to bust down doors and enter new markets and scale really quickly through sales and marketing. And with that, we are going to do introductions. I would like to start with Matt Mayer. It's been such a joy to work with you. I honestly always get so excited when I meet a new company because I'm like, oh, I can't wait to work with Matt on this. So.
Hi, everyone. Hello. My name is Matt Mayer. I have known Jenna for about 5 years now, and a lot of you in the room right now as well. I am a brand designer, strategist, and an artist. I went to school for art originally. I graduated with a fine arts degree, so I did go to school for art. And I wanted to find my kind of place in the world and where that made sense. And I found that just through the things I was naturally doing as a kid was that I liked building experiences and designing sort of worlds around things. And so branding weirdly fit into that mold and sort of like the graphic design element of it, because we're in a digital world now and most things are digital. And so I can create the space that way. I started working with a few local government contractors at first, and then eventually started working with NASA and helping do marketing and branding for a lot of the launch support events, the Launch America campaign. I did a lot of stuff at the Kennedy Space Center, attractions and things like that. And then I moved here during 2020 during the pandemic, like everyone else, kind of just in this weird stasis where work was like, you're still an employee, but we can't do anything with you right now. So I was like, well, I want to keep doing things. And despite being an introvert, I'm very ambitious. So I was really interested in getting involved in like design studios and things like that. And it's just not a space that exists very heavily in this area. I remembered about this old office a few years back. Someone told me about it. So I was like, well, I can't work at home. I'm going to come here and work so I can put my head down and like focus. And I ended up making so many friends just from being in this space and connecting with so many other business owners that they ended up becoming my clients in addition to friends. And I just sort of organically was able to build a business out of it. It's kind of great because I don't have to work with these large corporations that kind of just see me as a service model where I'm just, in a silo, they pay me to do something and I deliver it. I get to be one-on-one with the CEO and help them build an idea from scratch into this world that they've envisioned. And that's kind of what I've always wanted to do. So I would say I'm lucky in that the space kind of came to me rather than the other way around. But a lot of it has to do with Groundswell and the space that Jenna helped form back in 2016. That was a long-winded introduction, but that's me.
Cool. So my name is Megan Wolfgram, and I know several of you, but some are new faces too. I like to take full credit for being Groundswell's very first member. Not so much credit for not sticking with it because my business was at a very different point. So I was its first member, and then I took a couple-year hiatus and came back into the community full-time in 2019 and haven't looked back since. Jenna and I met in college, and I'm a Brevard County native. This community is truly a gem. So if you're not super plugged in already, which I know many of you are, hang around. Like, it's so welcoming. I am going to go off of what I wrote here because I really like the format. Effectively, my company is Swift Paws, and we help people and their pets play better together. So we're best known for our lure coursing kit, which if you've ever seen the dogs chasing around a fake squirrel that is running around a backyard that people are controlling, that is me. I got started very, very organically about 14 years ago. And it's very telling to listen to this prompt, which says, the moment you realized you were meant to be doing what you're doing. And I guess maybe I'm just slow on the uptake because it took me about 7 years to realize that I needed to be doing this in a really big way. So I spent the first 7 years of the business, nobody got paid, traveling around, doing events. And I heard thousands of people in that time say that they needed something like what I was giving them in their own backyard. And so for me, that was the moment. And it just took about 10,000 times of somebody telling me that for me to go, okay, I need to make a consumer version to put in people's backyards so they can enjoy this at home. And now we are doing that on a large scale, from very small product up to the professional grade product that I started out with. And I'm excited for this because it is never too late to take a fresh look at all things marketing and strategy. And it doesn't matter whether you haven't even formed something yet or whether you're 14 years in like I am. I think it's a good exercise. So I'm looking forward to this. Going around.
Hi, I've never done this before. My name is Andrea. I own a baby and toddler active play program in Melbourne. I've been doing it completely solo for 1 year and 9 months now. And when I say solo, I mean everything. So I don't even want to say I own a business. I operate a business, and I'm looking to change that in the future to hopefully actually own the business and step back on the physical part. I love this worksheet too. Actually, I wrote a whole bunch of stuff and then literally just X'd it out because that exact question, with what was the exact moment, I can tell you so many moments where I knew this is what I was supposed to do, and it just needs to get bigger and bigger because this is it. I've been an entrepreneur a long time. I've had a lot of little businesses, smaller things, selling soap, things like that. But this is what I like to call my career, and I refuse to let this one go. I basically do soft play for babies and toddlers, and it's all based on fitness and active play. So it's for crawlers through 4, and I also do birthday parties and soft play rentals. So it's a little bit of everything. But I started off only 2 days a week at a really small martial arts gym, and now I am doing 5 days a week at a much larger martial arts gym. The problem I am at now is that I have to go around their hours, and I'm capped out at what I can do at the location I'm at, and I don't want to keep moving around. So that's why I'm here. Um, I would say my exact moment was definitely after COVID. So I have 2 older children, they're 12 and 13, and they were homeschooled all the way until COVID. And then, actually, as people were pulling their kids out of school, I got pregnant again 10 years later and pushed my kids into school during the pandemic and told them not to bring COVID home. And during that time, I had my new baby. I was like, okay, everything that was here prior to COVID is gone. I mean, we had so many places for kids and babies in that age group that are just gone now. There's so many cafes and things that are gone. And I need to bring it back. We need to bring it back. And every single day that I go to my job and I go to these open mats that I host, I am told over and over again that I need to be franchising this, or that this is just something they've never seen or done before, because it's not your typical play with toys, put dress up clothes on. It's all obstacle course stuff that they can move around, and it's very child led. So that's my passion. I love children. I did go to school for science, and I was a personal trainer, so fitness is in my background. So incorporating the two is just, it makes me so happy. So that's where I am. My goal is to own my own space and to step away from operating a little bit, but I know it's going to take a lot more operating to get to that. So that was really long.
So hi, I'm Steven Sopko, and I exited my startup about 1.5 years ago. And when I started my startup, I made a deal with my co-founder, because ever since I was a kid, I've had at least 3 businesses at any given time. And so he knew that. And because when he and I were at Oracle together, I had 2 other businesses going. And so he said, look, a big part of our customer base is going to be Fortune 100. If you're the COO of our company and you're moonlighting running a game company, we're going to look like fools. So he said, just one thing. I said, great. I'm only going to be doing this for 3 years. So I'll do this one thing. 10 years later, I exited. So I did one thing nonstop for 10 years. And when I finished, I had a book of 74 ideas, and I've got it down to like 3. It's been a journey, but so I had so many things I wanted to do. And where I had the realization of what I wanted to do was one morning, because I mentor for the UCF Business Incubator, mentor founders. And so I'm having a conversation with 2 founders, and I'm almost like a marriage counselor, because they hate each other now because they've been founders for a while. And so I'm brokering, and I began to realize, okay, I see so clearly what their challenge is. Cool, that's fine. So I came in here and I was mentoring a couple of companies who are larger. Same problem, exactly the same problem. I'm thinking, okay, well, it gets up to a certain size and then it stops. And it's all down to how to sell, how you package what you sell, what you talk about when people ask you what you do. And so I thought, okay, there's a natural limit on this. But one of the things I do, because I don't just do one thing, is I'm a industry analyst for semiconductors for something called Hyperframe Research. I'm on the phone with NVIDIA, and we're having a conversation. Exact same problem. They're having trouble packaging what they talk about, what they're doing. And I'm thinking to myself, it's all so clear to me. And that was the moment when I realized, out of all the 74 ideas, helping people translate that, whatever that is, into what they want to make money doing is what I enjoy probably the most out of all those ideas. And the thing my startup did was really boring. It was software license negotiations. And we made a lot of money doing it, but it was incredibly dull. So for 10 years, I did that very dull thing. And now I get to work with all of these different companies trying to figure out how to package and narrate what they're doing. So that's me, and that's what I do.
So I am Crystal Fuller. I work for a local nonprofit agency in Brevard County. We're actually located in Rockledge. Our mission there is to serve and employ and empower individuals with disabilities. I am the director of the manufacturing and logistics department. Know Megan very well because we actually just did some of her products today for her. And I guess I can talk about the moment I realized that I knew that I was doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing. So I've been in manufacturing for over 30 years, telling my age there, but a very long time. And so it is a passion of mine, manufacturing, but when you add the mission aspect, I'm trying not to get emotional because it is very emotional. We have individuals with a wide range of disabilities. We have deaf individuals. We have every end of the spectrum that you can think of as far as autism. We have disabled veterans, and seeing them be able to work and earn a living. I'm such a sucker for emotion. I did an interview with Megan not too long ago with Catania, and it was all I could do to hold myself. So I apologize. Yeah. Yeah. So we serve about 800 individuals with disabilities. But the reason that I wanted to come today was to learn how to market it better, because a lot of people don't know that we're there. I mean, we truly are a hidden gem, and we just got AS 9100 and ISO 9001 certified. It's a huge deal, especially when you're employing individuals with disabilities who are not just doing the work, but they're doing the work with jigs that we create to help them be able to do the work. So to be able to get the top quality from that, it speaks volumes on the work and the pride that they put into the work. So I'm hoping to gain some insight on how to market and sell our capabilities and what we can do in the manufacturing environment to help Brevard County.
Thank you. My name is Arvid Hoffman. I came to the Sunshine State about 10 years ago from Norway. Too cold, too dark. And I was working from home for a few years. I used to work for the GE big companies. I'm a mechanical engineer. And then I was looking for a place outside home to work. I was visiting like 4 or 5 places around here. Once I was walking in the door, I think it was Shay that I met the first person, and it was like she gave me the tour, and I was like, oh, I just wanted to get started because I could feel that vibe. And that was like 5 years ago. So this place is fantastic. It's how good it will be. So I first discovered that maybe troubleshooting and stuff like that was something for me when I was working in a company and they had this kind of, you can give suggestions to improvements, blah, blah, blah. So I had a suggestion and I got rewarded for it, blah, 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 and so on. It was inspiring to me. Then I had another idea for a friend who was sitting in a wheelchair, so I made him a product. And then finally, I got my business in order, my finances in order, so I could jump off that sort of rat race. So I want to use my engineering skills, my creativity to make some products that can help other people. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be not rocket science, but still can be of really good use. So if I'll have a toast next year and have one product license, I will be very happy. That's me.
My name is Peyton. I'm here tonight, I think, to get a little bit of confidence for my ideas. I graduated college a little over a year ago, and I quickly fell into the fear of like, oh my God, I need to get a real job. I need to be a real big girl. Life's happening. And I'm quickly realizing I don't have to give up my dream. I'm 23. I don't need to fall into any of those fear mentalities. And I realized I wanted to do social media management. I pretty much have known that since I was in middle school. I was always like on Tumblr. I was obsessed with having like spam accounts and creating these images and aligning different vibes, if you will, kind of before it was ever a concept. And so I've just had many moments over the years, and obviously met amazing people that have said, hey, I know so-and-so really needs help with their aligning their brand or building their social media or having someone regulate or maintain their social media. And I've always just been too hesitant to bet on that or imagine getting paid to do that, so just, I guess, mustering up the courage to start my business and connect with the right people. And so,
Thanks.
I just want to say, Peyton, you're not alone. It's not just someone who just finished college. It's like you were just saying. It follows you everywhere, and so you just have to just step out there and say, yeah, you know what you're doing. So, my name is Leangela, and I have spent most of my life helping people, either in the community or working in a nonprofit. It's part of my bloodline, and I don't always love that, but it's something that I always go back to. Always want to help somebody. If you want it or you don't want it, I'm always willing and standing there to do that. So in my past life, before I moved to Florida in 2018, I spent a lot of time working in the community and nonprofits, and just making a connection with the community and people. It's as big as Brevard County is. It's really very small. Everybody knows each other, and you start getting tossed around. Oh, so-and-so needs help with this, or you might be able to help so-and-so with that. So I spent a lot of time doing that. It gave me the love that it gave me what I wanted, until one day someone said to me, why hasn't anyone grabbed you up yet? That was maybe 15 years ago. And it stuck with me all of these years. And finally, when I moved to Florida in 2018, just before the pandemic, I was working at a nonprofit. And again, as a leader in a nonprofit, the Evans Center, you probably know it. We have one of your, that was another program. But while I was there, I realized that that's never going to go away. And during the pandemic, when I wasn't able to really get out into the community and work the way that I love to work, I had to find something else to do. So I was surfing online, and I started reaching out to people I learned about becoming an online business manager, which is someone who helps businesses solve problems, get unstuck, connect with, the next piece that they need to connect with. And that's when I really realized there's a place for me to do what I love to do and not just give it away. And so I've been doing this now as an online business manager. My company is OBM Professionals. I've been doing this now for about 4 years. And I help business owners connect, become more efficient, learn ways to automate, to help them get past whatever it is that's got them stuck. The one thing that would be a champagne toast for me is just like you, Peyton. I want to get paid for this. I want to get paid well for this. And my champagne toast is to make my first $100,000 next year. In 1 year, to make 100,000 in 1 year.
Hello, my name is Natalie Martin. When I was in college, I stood before a congregation and I shared my heart and what I learned from studying the scriptures. I was in awe with the reception that I received from the people that were listening to me. At that moment, I knew that I was going to be a teacher. So I teach. And I have two beautiful children who are artists, who can produce things for me to share the things that I'm teaching on paraphernalia, like t-shirts or journals or what do you call these things with the paper, notebooks or whatever, planners. My heart is to artistically produce those things with the things that come to my heart to say, but I went to school to be an engineer, so I have a very logical mind. Artistic stuff does not come with me, but it came with my children. So I want to grab their artistic ability and the words that I have to share and put those together so that people can see it in a beautiful way.
Hello, my name is Nizamar. I'm just like, sorry. I write and I illustrate. I've sort of always been a storyteller and like creative, but I recently graduated art school and I want to do stuff as far as like concept art and storyboarding and like animation, but sort of figuring out exactly where I'm going.
My name is Lena. I would say that the moment I realized I was meant to be doing what I'm doing is when I was 10 and I took a dance class. And I knew that I would never stop. I'm originally from New York and I went to performing arts schools in New York. I was a dancer for many years. And of course, the weight of life kind of puts you in a different path. I had kids. And for years, you know, my identity was mom, wife, worker, and in between I would dance, but when you stop doing what you love, you die. And my last role, I was director of housing and student union at a college. My passion for students, for them to be seen, heard, and empowered, it's really in me. And but because I'm a people pleaser and I wanted everybody to be seen and heard, and never mind me, I burned out. You know, I took care of my dad, went in his last year, so I did a lot of things at one time. And about 2 years ago, I quit my job, and I was like, who am I? What do I do? You know, and I'm like, I'm a dancer. No, I can't do that. But you're never too old to step out and create, you know, and live your life. So in my bed one day, I knew that I needed to spread the word that dancing, everybody to me has a dancer in them, and I'm just gonna bring it out of it. And I was in my room one day, and I'm dealing with this horrible case of plantar fasciitis. I can't teach a dance class. I can't move. And I knew that I had a passion. I had a passion for this ministry that I started, crowning little girls and empowering them. And I said, well, let me combine that. And I wrote 3 children's books, and I self-published them. And it is inspiring little girls to affirm the word of God upon their life through dance movements and through the art of dance. And I'm an innovator. You give me a vision. I started, you know, departments for companies, but I don't know what to do for me. It's like I'm stuck. I don't know. I'm one that likes to be behind the scenes. I like to I love being on stage as long as I don't have to open my mouth. But, you know, everybody's telling me, go to TikTok. I'm not one that likes to be in the center of attention. I don't want to be seen, so it's hard for me to market my book. I don't know what to do. So that's why I'm here, so that I can learn how to market and sell so that every little girl can get that book and just be inspired.
Hey y'all, my name's Chris, and I guess kind of the moment where I realized that I wanted to work in AI was probably back in 2019, before it was like the cool thing to do. And one of my friends had sent me over some Python code for some early text to image generation. And I started messing around with that and creating some art and selling it online. And that was pretty cool since I had never done art before that. So like nerd art. Previous to that, I was working in sales, and I really didn't like it because I'm pretty introverted. And as my 8-year-old daughter tells me all the time, I'm a pretty big nerd. So not really my forte, but I just stuck with that for up until now, and doing more or less research and development and sales engineer for my crown over a year. And I guess my champagne moment would be making my fake dad proud.
That's a good goal, so. Yeah, my name is Michael Crown. I'm kind of more, I'm not really at the beginning of my journey. I'm hopefully much closer to the end. So, but I recognize myself in every one of you guys, a little bit of what kind of got me on my path.
And when did you get back?
Well, I'm technically not back. If anybody asks.
Don't report it.
Okay, got it.
I actually live in Puerto Rico, so I'm here working on this new startup with Chris. And I would say, you know, my moment, I have these moments every day. I really do. I'm a problem solver. That's what I live for. That's really kind of what grinds my gears. I had a customer call me here when I, you know, at the beginning of the meeting with a big problem, and I was able to help him out, and you know, to have him tell me, man, you know, I really appreciate what you do for me and what you've done for us. And, you know, that's like, if I get one of those every day, then I'm pretty happy. But I really do like solving problems, and probably should be solving the problem of quitting work and disappearing. But yeah, I'm addicted to it, honestly. So starting a new business here with Chris. We run a phone company. We're taking Chris's knowledge and experience in AI, and we're layering that on top and building some really, really cool stuff. And so yeah, I'm starting over again here with something new. So I guess my
Yeah, my champagne moment would kind of be when I hand the keys to my son here and tell him to drive, so I can get in the back seat and enjoy myself, I think.
Cool.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Champagne moments when you can tell them you're proud.
That's right. There you go.
That's all I ever wanted.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Brown. I'm the investment field detective. I work with investors to help find properties and real estate that cash flow or produce returns. I did not always start out in real estate though. I thought that the key to being successful was, working hard. And so I went to school and I became a dental hygienist. So I practiced dental hygiene for 15 years. I still have my license and I work every once in a while just to kind of keep up with it. But the moment that I realized that there was something more for me was I was just caught up in that mundane, like 9 to 5 life. And I remember I was driving over the Pineda Causeway, like headed to work where I went every single day in the same parking spot that I parked in every single day. And I was just like, wow, I was just like living a life on autopilot, like confined to this operatory, which I mean I loved and it served me well for a while. But I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad and it opened my eyes up to the opportunities and possibilities where you don't necessarily have to work harder for more, you work smarter. And so that's when I decided to start my career in real estate. And I'm here because marketing and branding is so important that people know who you are and the relationships that you develop. And so I want to be able to grow that and have my brand out there more and stepping out of my comfort zone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Belly. It's my son Jacob. I'm an implant to Florida. I came down in 2011 to play Division II lacrosse at Florida Tech and establish a program there. With that, I was going to be a marine biologist. I Google searched how much marine biologist makes in my first half of the semester. I said, F that. Quickly became an engineer. Met somebody named Bud Defabach after graduating and starting a company. He shattered my hopes and dreams of what I thought a startup was going to be at that point. And ever since, became highly invested in the success of this region. All that to be said, so what I'm doing today, I have an AI development company that has an innovation and intelligence platform. Essentially, why I'm doing what I'm doing is my goal was always to step into any organization and create as much value as possible. With that, I knew it was a simple framework to be applied, and I have essentially automated that with a couple other co-founders. We serve a range of ICPs, and with that, what we say we do is we optimize what matters. So for myself, I was one of those burnout or get out people that constantly burn myself out throughout my 10-year career. So for me, higher quality work life or higher quality of life is what I usually say is what to be optimized around by working smarter. So with that, it's generally applicable across any business. So for me, why I'm doing what I'm doing is we created an innovation intelligence platform that's very good at ingesting structured data that can then be reapplied to any other business. Essentially, innovation occurs across industries. Why don't we give that knowledge in a structured manner to any business that enters the platform? So for me, my champagne toast is to have a very well diversified data set in 1 year across at least 6+ industry verticals with about 200 different clients.
So this is very specific. Great, so just a reminder, if you need to go take a break, get a snack, get coffee, water, everything's available to you here. And I want to thank you again for coming. We are going to meet Matt. He's going to give us a presentation about brand. Very excited. And then over the course of the next 4 sessions, my goal is for everyone to really take home sort of a full view, like a big old dashboard of this is my marketing and sales plan. These are the levers I'm pulling and why. I think most entrepreneurs that I've worked with in the last 12 years, and it is a couple dozen, most people don't have one objective. They have 10 objectives, and it just feels like you're always on the grind and you're never getting where you want to be. So if you look at this activity number 2 here, I do want you to pay attention to Matt. I'd also like you to take the information that he's sharing and really think through what is my one objective and what are the 3 key results of the specific measurable things that are going to drive that objective over the next year. And he's going to take us through some great examples of what is brand, when is brand done well, and how does this apply to my business. Thanks, Matt.
Round of applause for everyone being so attentive. So as I've said before, I'm a brand strategist, designer. Really, I'm just a fine artist that's trying to find his place in the world. And I've been lucky to meet people that have given me opportunities that I would not have normally had through working for just a company and doing the 9 to 5. There are benefits to that, obviously, but only here can I, one day work on a dog toy product design, and then work on an app for another company in the afternoon, and then the next morning I go off on an on-site to do some kind of fundraising event for another client of mine. So every day is different. Being at the ground level with an entrepreneur is really exciting because it becomes a partnership. And I just think working relationships should be that way. So I'm going to speak to that a little bit, but I will try not to get too tangential. This whole thing is all about first impressions. Every choice you make affects the perception of you, right? A lot of times I've worked with startups here and elsewhere where the design becomes sort of second choice. It's something I have to have. Like, I got to go through this. I'll go through Fiverr or whatever that 99 Blue site was, and just hire something as cheap as I can just so I have a logo up there. I don't really care about it. And it's been very frustrating as a creative, which a few of you are, so I know that you can kind of agree with me on this, that it's difficult to have to prove yourself and your worth, especially when it's such a skill-based trade, and other skill-based trades do not have that same level of discrimination tied to them. So I want to speak to the value of design and how it works into this sort of capitalist world that we're in, and how it can be still authentic and not necessarily all about manipulating your audience, right? So who am I? I kind of spoke to this already. I help businesses make design work for them. And what I mean by that is not make it so that you can accept that design is now part of your business. But I want the design to actually have a utility. I want it to have a purpose and intent behind why we're doing what we're doing. Why am I here? To show you how design can make or break your business. It is serious. It is not some secondary cosmetic thing that just makes it look pretty. There is a long-term value and purpose behind everything that we do. And what do you want from me? Why am I here? I want you to leave knowing how to make smarter and more intentional choices. So you don't necessarily have to become a creative designer. I'm not going to judge your drawing abilities or anything like that. I just want you to. The one thing I wish I communicated to 70% of the clients that I've had that I should not have taken on is the value that I need to have in myself. I need to respect what I do, and they need to respect what I do. And if they don't respect what you do, then you shouldn't be working with them. And I think that goes to say for almost any other business interaction outside of design, but it's a hard thing to learn when you're working on your own and you're just trying to make a living. But honestly, any situation where I've taken something because I needed the money, it's never been worth it. It's always, the best relationships are the ones where I have a client that I know well, I love working with them. Maybe they're not solely supporting me, but like Megan's been a great client, for example. But I love working with them and I'll continue to do that. So what makes or breaks a brand? I sort of distilled this into 3 things. And none of them you'll notice are based on the product or the service or anything like that. It's really all about storytelling. When I've started my sort of design studio, I realized most of the problems that I was solving were not related to design. Yeah, I can make something look a little bit prettier, I can format it better so that it's more legible, but for the most part, it's, do you have an actual story? And how do we frame that in a way that can be visual? So I've distilled these kind of 3 elements, story, vision, and people. Story, so I'm using a couple examples here that are just more famous so that we can kind of align on it. So Nike co-founder Bill Bowerman invited the now iconic Souls using a waffle iron, his wife's waffle iron during breakfast. So before Nike began as a small it started as a small sneaker company out of the University of Oregon. He was a track coach, and one of his runners was wearing shoes that were lighter and faster because they replaced the canvas and leather with nylon and a wedged heel. However, the school had switched to an artificial track, and he needed a way for the shoe to have some kind of grip without actually having spikes on the shoe. So at the dinner table, he stole his wife's waffle iron and poured the mold into it, and that's why you get that sort of iconic waffle sole shoe that we know so well. This is just an example of a story that carries with the brand. The history of that has, you know, we might not all know that story, but the fact that it was organic, there was intent behind it. It wasn't just, I want to make money, so I'm going to sell this thing. There's history behind it, and that story just sort of makes it more personal. It's more bootstrapped the way you did it, pun intended, and that's kind of like the impact that a story can have. So every one of you had a story in terms of why you do what you do or how it came about. And that's important for me to know as a designer when I build your brand, because telling that story is going to grab a lot of the audience that you want to get anyways. Patagonia. So Patagonia, in terms of vision, they're a well-known brand for being very eco-conscious. Back in 2011, they did a Black Friday ad at the New York Times that encouraged consumers to buy less and buy quality, and basically told people not to buy their jacket. This ended up increasing their sales by 30%, which is really interesting. But they started this sort of trend of strategic authenticity in their marketing, which was kind of unheard of at the time, where they put the vision of what they invested in this vision of being more eco-conscious and actually held to it. It wasn't all just fluff or marketing BS. And people responded positively to that. And it's a long-standing brand because of that. This is an example of where a negative interaction can happen. Back in 2017, Pepsi did a very famous commercial called Live for Now, featuring Kendall Jenner. And it was meant to appeal to millennials. Probably non-millennials were the ones responsible for coming up with the idea. But they wanted to promote this global message of unity and peace and understanding. However, it was quickly pulled because people were accusing Pepsi and Jenner of trivializing the Black Lives Matter movement, which was big at the time, and also police brutality. If you haven't seen the commercial, essentially she's doing a modeling gig on the street. There's sort of people protesting in the streets, but all of their signs have sort of vague, non-specific statements on them. It basically, Pepsi's not really taking a stance on any kind of thing, and she hands one of the police SWAT members just a can of Pepsi, and all of a sudden everyone's okay and smiling and cheering. So it's just this sort of sense of like you're taking your brand and you're one, trivializing something that's very problematic in the country, but also being so detached from your actual demographic, and having this, you know, multi-millionaire represent the people. People didn't respond well to that because they felt it was disingenuous. So I'm going to start talking about visual design because that's what I actually do. we all know brands are, for the most part, consist of logos, colors, typography, the typical things you would ask a graphic designer to make for you. And that's all a big part of it. But really, it's about consistency. Visuals communicate faster than words, and we need to make sure that the visuals that we're choosing are not only communicating quickly, but also communicating efficiently. So that kind of goes back to what I'm saying, you know, every visual choice we make has an impact or a consequence. And so we have to be very particular and intentional in how we do this. Otherwise, you're going to go flip-flopping your brand design here and there. There's no consistency anymore. You lose your customer loyalty and identification. I'm going to use this Channel 4 brand as an example. Now, this is just going to kind of quickly flip through some different applications of the brand and how it visualizes as a design system. But what I like about it, Pentagram did this, by the way. They're a studio in New York. Well, they have a couple offices nationally, but they like to put together these little like videos that encompass everything, like different members of the team came together and contributed to building the brand. And what I like about it is I can see how the brand breathes and exists within that space. In this case, it's all digital. But how there's consistency and, you know, the type of typography, the fact that this is a full spectrum of colors, but they all sort of work together and they're harmonious in a way. The fact that we're thinking about, you know, our own emoticons, our own motion graphics, the logo itself becomes kinetic, and we have different weights and applications that we play around with it. And it's just very thoughtful. And even though there are so many variations and how much play they're having with this logo, it all looks like it's a part of the same narrative, which goes to design psychology. Now, in this case, I'm just speaking to color. That's just one small aspect. There are sort of universalities around the statistics of how we see color and how that influences our emotions and what we associate that with. Obviously, you'll notice a lot of these companies are all over the place, and the color doesn't necessarily dictate what product they're offering, but there is a certain commonality in terms of, let's say, Cracker Barrel or UPS, right? You're thinking a little bit more old school, traditional, hometown vibes. Delivering mail feels very, you know, sort of traditional. Cracker Barrel's, you know, relies on tradition. A&W also has kind of a retro vibe. So you can, Hershey's, M&M's are quite old as well. So they have that sort of legacy touch to them, that vintage legacy vibe to it. Whereas a lot of the tech companies you're going to see in the blues, greens, violets if they're a little more ambitious, things like that. I'm going to use a couple of my own examples of work to show how I build a design system. So this is for a company called Kavi. I worked with them back in 2021, I believe. And they're out of Texas. It's not a very sexy brand or product. It is a insurance policy application. Basically, it's an API to integrate policyholder information into your own system internally. So if I'm renting a car, for example, and we want to make sure that this person actually has an updated policy, now I can integrate it within the app and they can check it immediately. You know, there's no legal issues there. So two things that were interesting with this brand. One, you know, it's not super sexy. It's insurance, it's tech. It's not easy to talk about. So they wanted it to be fun because these were fun people, which was really cool because they gave me a lot of liberty with how I wanted to look. Also, we had the association of the word cubby. People were misreading it as Covey, and you know, this is 2021, so peak COVID. So I really wanted to get the phonetics communicated somehow. So my weird solution to that was to create a character, which is not unheard of in the insurance industry, but since we're doing fun things, I was like, hell yeah. So his name is Cubby, spelled K-U-H-V-E. And really it's meant to be coverage, insurance coverage. But I wanted this Yeti, which is sort of a reference to coding. But also I wanted something that was like big and huggable and felt like it was going to cover me. So having this character to kind of associate with the brand helped a little bit with the phonetics and like communicating that without it being, you know, as literal as me parenthesizing the name. Even with the logo mark, it's very simple. It's a C, but I designed it in a way where it sort of emulated the syntax of programming language. The colors are, very pop. Purple and orange are really, I see as sort of ambitious and young. And I think that was kind of honestly the team. They're all a bunch of web developer or software developers, and they really love what they do, and they're all roughly my age, listen to cool music, and they just didn't want this kind of stale brand to represent them. On to Megan. If you're not familiar with Megan's business, she does lure chasing toys for dogs. I worked with her since as long as I've been here, something like that. We worked together on one of her more recent products, which is called Swift Pause Chase, and that included the UI design, as well as some of the product packaging for accessories and things like that. Her brand's really fun because it's just like this hot pink, and that's really all it started as. It was really just hot pink and gray. And so when Chase came along, we got to introduce these kind of other accenting colors that worked really well with it, and these more like impact ones. I also helped with some of the pitch decks and some of the presentations, and just different ways of how this brand can all come together visually, where these are three totally different applications of use, but they have consistency between them. And a lot of that has to do with color, but also, the amount of white space. The fact that I can make this entirely blue and have very minimal of the pink, but it still feels on brand. And so having that sort of eye for balance and being able to make it work expands what I can do with the brand, but also keeps it consistent. This is just a recent package that I brought in for the newest product, which is Pounce, which is the cat version of the toy. So it's meant for indoors. And we just wanted to do something really cute. So we made the whole box a little kitty. I wanted the bottom to be a little buttonhole, but we didn't.
The box didn't come together.
It didn't come together.
The point we tried.
Yeah,
unfortunately the bottom is like a line, so we were gunning for it.
Yeah.
It's also the first retail version, so for the first
Yeah.
time ever, somebody might see that in a store versus seeing the website. So I thought packaging was really important.
Yeah, that one's a little beat up. It won't.
It was the
work
first
100%,
sample,
but yeah,
so it's
yeah,
been shipped around a lot.
So why bother hiring me? There are so many tools out there. Like, who is this guy? Doesn't know what he's talking about. And there's AI now. Who needs me? I would say the biggest thing is collaborative partnerships. I obviously have had the benefit of working out of a space where my clients also share that space. So I get to be one-on-one with them, but there's something really valuable about the fact that when I work on design or telling the story, I'm with you during that story. And so we can go back and forth, we can iterate. I know where your pain points are, we understand each other. And I've tried to maintain that kind of relationship even with clients outside of Groundswell, because I think it's really important to what I do. A lot of the times I'm working with someone that has gone to 2 or 3 designers already, and they've kind of just, cashed in and gotten something, but then didn't really like what they got, but never had the opportunity to communicate why they didn't like it or anything like that. It was just a handoff. I don't like that interaction. I don't see the point of it. And as much as I need money, I weirdly don't care about it. So I'd rather give you more value for what you're doing. So I put a lot of discovery before we get into design of anything. I want to understand your story. I want to know who you are as a person. I want to make sure that we vibe well and that we can actually communicate clearly and we don't have any holdups. Sometimes you meet people and you're just like, this is not someone I want to be friends with. And if I don't want to be friends with you, I don't necessarily need to work with you either. I know that sounds rude, but it's kind of important. You should work with people that care about what you're doing and care about you. So transparency and trust, I'm kind of hitting all of these points already. But while we're here, I thought we'd have fun and just talk about AI because it's a hot topic. So AI is getting kind of thrown all over the place lately. I threw this particular example. It's not the full video, but Toys R Us did a full AI commercial at one point, and it was just very uncomfortable for people to watch. And this isn't even a bad clip of it, honestly, but there was sort of this uncanny valley attached to it that people didn't quite understand. And honestly, companies get a lot of backlash for using it. And I will say this as someone that has been a proponent for AI for 5 or 6 years now. I actually really enjoy what it's done, and I think it's really innovative and interesting. In the art world, it is very controversial, which is understandable. So I want to talk about where AI actually adds value. It is really valuable in terms of ideation. Even when I'm designing things, I may have a concept that maybe I don't have the skill or the wherewithal to sketch up. So I'm going to have it mock up, and I know it's not going to be exactly what I want, but it'll give me maybe a starting point or idea, or like, is this even going to look good if I bother trying it? And sometimes I'll take that, I'll be like, well, I like this part of it, so I'm going to Photoshop like 75% of this out. And then I'm going to take that, and then I'm going to use that as a seed image, and then I'm going to blend it with this other image. And then it just goes down this whole trail of me like manipulating the crap out of AI and end up getting something completely unique that's outside of it. And I think that exploration and play is really interesting. So I would say AI has value in being a tool rather than a replacement. The problem is a lot of people just use it, and it's like, well, we want to, cut out the middleman. We want to get this done as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to put in a prompt, get a result, and pop it up, throw it up on an ad, and it's good as it is. So I just generated these this morning because I was just like, give me an eco brand, and give me some product mockups. And there's of course no consistency in any of this because I didn't iterate it. But it gave me like 4 different logos. And the mockup logo is not even the same any of these, which is interesting. But it's a starting point. It took the concept of an eco brand. It gave me a couple variations of something that was a little bit more minimal, something that is sort of elegant and serifed. It gave me neutral, sort of earthy tones, which kind of makes sense. So it's pulling from current things. And if I wasn't using AI, I would maybe reference what other people had been doing. And this pulls very similar information. So I went through the process this morning of let's go through and like build a brand using just ChatGPT, which is very common. And I probably wouldn't use this for doing design at all, but I wanted to go through the process to see what it was capable of doing without me interfering too much with it at all, which was very hard for me to do. So I started with just like, give me a few options for a business concept. And I asked it to be as like unique and unconventional as possible. So it came up with coffee and textile arts, really unique. Loom brew. So I was like, okay, we'll go with that. So I asked it to generate a logo for me without really anything other than just like, let it be informed by the demographic and the personality of the brand. So of course it's, brown, like coffee. It has a literal cup of coffee over a loom and then a nice little serif. I don't hate it. It's a little complex for me though. So I was like, well, can we simplify the logo mark a little bit? And now it looks like a crate. So I was like, well, let's bring the loom back because I've been losing the textile part of it now. So we got to this, which really just looks like a fireplace, but I was like, okay, I'm not going to take it too much further because I said I wouldn't interfere, right? So I was like, okay, well, let's see what the rest of the brand looks like. Give me like a mood board for what this would look like. And I came up with this, and it's, it's pretty expected. It shows colors that are sort of analogous with that brown. It shows a very inoffensive secondary font with bobbins. And it it did come up with some textile textures, which I thought was kind of inventive of it. I would probably do something similar. It's not terrible. So I was like, well, let's see some products. I want something like really tactile. And then this happened. And this is a point that I run into with AI a lot. A lot of the times I'll go on a trend of designing something and then it'll completely lose sight of what the initial focus was. Now I could go back and correct this and be like, this is not the logo, but this is it. And I'll be like, oh yes, you're right. Sorry, sir. And, whatever. Kiss my feet. But my point is that this is me with minimal interference playing around with AI to get to a result. I'm spending 20 minutes already just doing this when I could probably just go and do it myself. And so that was kind of the point. There's always going to be value in artists in the world. AI is not going to take over. it has some real value in conceptual design and giving people the tools to do something that they wouldn't normally be able to do because they don't have that skill set, and I love that. I think obviously there's some controversy over profiting off of other artists' stolen work, but I'm not going to get into that right now.
I really encourage everybody to try to do that because I get so frustrated that Matt's prices look really good.
This is all just a scheme to get you to sign up for my course. So I wanted to go over some like funny like AI falls. So where AI falls short, which we've kind of already experienced, is on authentic brand voice and lived experience. In terms of content writing, it does a decent job of making things grammatically correct and buttoned up, but it's not going to be very inventive in terms of coming up with language that is personal without you interfering quite a bit with it. It doesn't make very good strategic decisions at all. I think it's probably the worst at that. It doesn't come up with very unconventional or creative ideas, even if I try to force it to. Now, I'm sure there are outliers to that statement. You know, I don't claim to know everything, but it typically doesn't have this sort of nuance and empathy that a human would have, and that sort of random chaos that makes things beautiful as an artist. So here's a few fun little examples. This was a Queensland Symphony Orchestra, which was a fully AI photo where she has like 11 fingers. And they're surrounded by this like horde of ghostly celloists. It's quite terrifying. This one is in terms of copy. Someone just go ahead and automated their Amazon listings so that the titles were input directly from OpenAI. So this dresser is called, I'm sorry, but I cannot fulfill this request. It goes against OpenAI's use policy. And this one's one of my favorites. It was the Wonka experience, I believe it was called.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was in Glasgow in February of last year. So they did all this like art for a Willy the Wonka. Whatever, I'm making it up myself. A chocolate factory inspired event for kids. This was the literal poster that they actually used with all of the typo issues and things like that. Now, obviously, this is an extreme, and I know none of you would find this acceptable to release to the public, but some people apparently do. And so this was the expectation was, of course, this like fantasy candy realm. And then people ended up going to this event, and it was this creepy warehouse with sparse decorations, really disgruntled employees, and a weird villain named the Unknown who like popped out of mirrors and scared the children. It's pretty funny. I would look into it. It has some of my favorite photos as a result of it. Yeah. They ended up calling the police on the event, and everyone got refunded their money. But it's just sort of like worst case scenarios where AI misled people into a like a Tumblr dashcon situation. Yeah, so I implore you to think of AI as an intern who never sleeps. It's fast, but it needs direction. Humans still set the tone, story, and vision. AI can help scale those ideas and test things faster, which is really exciting. But I think the success of AI is in it being a tool that is used by creatives strategically. So, in summation, even the smallest choices can matter a great deal. AI is a tool, not a replacement. And trust your designer because they know what they're doing and you paid them, so let them go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt, for that overview on brands and first impressions being so important. A lot of people want more sales. They want to see more customers come through the door. They want to help more people in 2026. So much of removing that trust barrier and bringing more people to the table has to do with that first impression. So thank you so much. We're going to have another session with Matt and next week, Thursday. And each session will build on the last one. So we're going to do a breakout and have two different groups in this larger room where there's more AC pumping through next. And I encourage if you came with someone, your son, your daughter, I encourage you to sit at different tables. One table is going to be with Stephen here, who will speak in a moment. And the other one was going to be with Matt, and I'm going to float between. Before you leave, I'd love for you to fill out the survey. That's paper number 3 that you have there. come to me. I want to say hi and bye and take that survey from you so that we can continue to improve these, make them smoother, and always be iterating. Awesome. So any questions before we break out into this next room? And I'm going to let Stephen here share a bit about workshops 3 and 4. So what to expect next.
So one thing that before I met y'all, workshops 3 and 4 were very different. They're very business to business. That's not the other. So I'm sorry, I'll just go so high. So before I met y'all, this was going to be a very business to business session 3 and 4, and there is still something to that because you do want to sell businesses, do businesses that have money. But one of the things we're going to do is we're going to pivot session 3, how to get inside your customer's head, how to figure out who you're trying to convince, what you're trying to convince them to do, why they want to do it or don't want to do it. So those human things, especially when you're trying to either do art or convince people to come dance or that sort of thing, we will get into what is going on in people's heads when they decide to do or not do something. So it's going to be a lot more about the psychology of buying rather than some of the stuff that's in the syllabus right now. So we're going to get a little bit more into that. Then in week 4, right now, it's a lot about thought leadership. The thing is, every single one of you has some very powerful thought leadership you can do through Substack or LinkedIn or Facebook or these different platforms. So we're going to get into what that looks like. And one of the first things I learned when I was selling years and years ago is you never go to a sales call without a gift. You have to have something in your hand to give them. People think that's a frozen turkey. I don't know why. But the key is you're bringing some knowledge that that person doesn't have. And so what we're going to do in week 4 is we're really going to dig into anybody in here, every single one of you. When I heard your introduction, you can lead with thought leadership. You have something to offer there. So we're going to get into that a little bit and how you can use your authority to help people see that you're on their buyer's journey and they want to end up with you. So if you have any questions about what we're doing in week 3 or week 4, please by all means ask me. But I just realized as we were kind of looking through today that a lot of what we were going to talk about probably wasn't going to be useful. So we just wanted to pivot. And that's week 3, know your customer and what they want.
So definitely fill out the survey and make sure I have it in my hand before you leave. We have 30 more minutes, so we're going to meet in this larger room. And I just want to thank you all for coming once more. Great.
I'm going to split up the 2 groups.
Yep, so you can choose a table. One table will be moderated by Stephen. The other table will be moderated by Matt. And I'm going to flow between the 2. You can choose which table you're going to be at. Try not to sit next to your best friend.